It seems like, from my perspective, and again, my perspective is limited here, but it seems like the risk outweighs the cost. Because if you're ending this experience with a much more hopeful outlook on life, isn't that worth settling for? Then isn't that better than settling for a life in which you feel like there's no connection between you and the rest of humanity and the universe?
It is for me. But here's the question, I think, is you could probably do one of these new psychedelic therapies once they're sort of legal and they're done with the FDA nonsense after 10,000 years, they decide mushrooms are not that dangerous. We've only had 10,000 years of safety protocols. And what you might find is this work with the more psychedelics that doesn't involve the shaman and the purge and all that might allow people to get some of the mental health benefits without going through the the more radical change in how they see the world.
Spiritual transformations.
Yes. But looking at people into psychedelics, they all eventually end up looking like Russell Brand kind of yogi hippies. It just, that's the joke. It just kind of, they start doing it and maybe it just happens anyway. But I try to be cautious. I just caution people. You're grown up. You want to do this stuff. Fantastic. I would sign up tomorrow, but there's, it's pretty intense. And one way you can think about ayahuasca from more of a spiritual shamanic perspective, it's an initiation. It's an initiation in a different way of life. And you're like, well, I just wanted to feel better. I didn't know if I wanted to be initiated.
Yeah. So maybe ayahuasca is not step one for you.
Well, yes. I mean, I'll just talk personally. When I was curious about this, the first ceremony I did was Kambo. Do you know Kambo at all? This is less, it's very less common. It's not a psychedelic. It's a frog toxin. I don't even know what's in it. I mean, I don't know if it's, I always thought it was a neurotoxin, but then I read maybe it was a really profound opiate. I don't know. So the way Kambo works is they burn you. They'll put burn a hole with it, like a stick that's on like a what we used to call them punks when we were kids for lighting fireworks, but kind of a burning stick. They burn a hole in your shoulder, wherever. Then they scrape it off and they rub the venom in, and they dose it by dots. So you might get 3 dots or 2 dots or whatever. And you sit there. I mean, I did this one time. I was just curious. I'm like, I could do this. No one's going to fire me for taking a Kambo place, and they won't even know what it is. And you sort of sit there for, with somebody, there's the chanting and the Icaros and the singing, and you sit there and you feel like your throat's closing up and you're going to die and your head's pounding. And then, eventually you just throw your guts up. These things never sound really good when you do them. But I did this first ceremony and like 3/4, and I do a lot of yoga. And so I can my body's good with handling stress. And this, we do yoga together. But I was doing one of these things, and all of a sudden I saw a vision of the frog. I saw the frog, and I just started cracking up. I was like, "What the hell is this?" And so afterwards, I was talking to my shaman. I'm like, "What the hell?" And he goes, "Well, that's a vision." Well, what the hell is a vision? Well, it's like kind of like an archetype. It's like an energetic archetype. That was really weird. So you can have visionary medicines that aren't psychedelic. If you know what I'm saying, you can have visions, but they're not psychedelic. And this is common with lots and lots of plants down there. They have different deities or spirits that go with the different plants. And if you diet them, you'll see them. Or, 40% of people in the study saw the frog or felt connected to the spirit of Kambo.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there's a paper 40%? Just came out.
40%?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Well, I mean, my story was a couple years later, I was like, God, I got to get a picture of this frog for my altar. I couldn't find one. And I was walking down the street in the high road in Edinburgh, kind of that big tourist street on the castle. And I look over, I'm like, oh my God, that's the frog. I have it right here. I could show you. And I ran over. I said, is that a Kambo frog? And so and the woman laughs. So I start, and we're talking in Spanish, so it's all kind of butchered. But she apparently saw a Polish shaman who gave her 11 or 14 dots across her heart of Kambo, which should have killed her. I mean, I don't know. I was just cracking. She's like, she had this profound vision and had drawn a picture of this frog. And hold on one sec. I'm just gonna.
Sure.
I'm showing you the frog here, just so you can see it. So.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
So this, after her near-death experience, this is the image of the Kambo frog she saw and painted it. So I just bought it. I'm like, I have to own this Kambo frog. She was selling it. But what really kind of, I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. So that's a very, very low level kind of how this stuff can work. So I guess the Kambo is my first experience. And then rather than doing ayahuasca, I worked with Huachuma or San Pedro, which people they're not as familiar with, but it's in the high mountains of Peru and I think Bolivia. They have this cactus that's, got mescaline in it. So it's very similar to peyote used in the southwest United States. Same, this mescaline-based drug. So I did a ceremony with that, and that's much more gentle. I mean, you end up puking and seeing stuff, but it's much more gentle. This is what Aldous Huxley used when he wrote Doors of Perception. It's a more gentle medicine. And you don't get that profound ego death, that really destabilizing ego death that you can sometimes get with the DMT and the ayahuasca. So I did that, and that was really useful, both for getting me used to, this sort of the psychedelic experience and the shamanic setting, but also it just got rid of a lot of stuff. I mean, I just ended up doing a lot of therapy. I was just kind of curious, and I was in there. I'm like, oh my God, this is therapy time. And it felt a lot like that movie Minority Report, where he's kind of moving around the screen, Tom Cruise. It felt like that with my mind. It was unbelievable. So I think this would probably be
it's like the pieces click into place in a way that makes you see them for what they are.
And this is what's cool, you can move them. And this is this idea of, so in the research, they talk about these as psychoplastogens? I sometimes add an extra syllable in there, but it's basically they make your brain plastic. And when we say plastic in science, we mean it's changeable. So, like the term neuroplasticity. What these medicines seem to do, and you can see this in the neuroscience work really clearly, is they open up these sort of channels and make your brain plastic so you can move stuff around. And this is where you can just do incredible work, where you can see a cluster, a complex, or trauma, and you can just boom, knock it out. I'm sorry, I get so excited because this is I don't even have words for it. It's so, you think about how many people are suffering in pain daily, and sometimes for their entire lives. And if there is something like this that can take away their pain or take away certain elements of their pain or help it 2/3 of the way, like 2/3 improvement, that's life transformative. Oh, absolutely. You got, again, the vets are the ones, with the PTSD is where you can see those huge improvements. So, the San Pedro or Huachuma, I'm terrible with my pronunciations, but they call it, the word San Pedro means St. Peter. And St. Peter, the reason they call it St. Peter is because it opens the pearly gates. So it's a heavenly plant. And when the Spanish came over and wiped out, the culture, the wisdom in this sort of Mesoamerican, Latin American, whatever you want to call it, that ancient culture is so profound, and it was just wiped out. But I think it's as profound as the Indo-Tibetan culture. It's incredible what they knew and what they still know. It's
if you go to Machu Picchu, it's undeniable. It's undeniable. You go there and you see what they built all those years ago, the irrigation systems, how they figured out. I mean, unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I remember I have a guide I use down there, and I was walking Machu Picchu with him, and he said, I take people up here on ayahuasca. So we drink ayahuasca and walk up. He goes, there's no way. He goes, that's how they built this stuff. It was, I don't know if that's true, but that's, because the vision, it's just that profound creativity and vision. Mm-hmm. Anyway, sorry.
Well, and I think of the people that I respect so much. I read a lot, and somebody like Ram Dass, who was a very respected psychologist and then wasn't after he was fired from Harvard. But you read a book like Be Here Now, and I'm reading his book right now called Being Ram Dass, and the profound experiences he had, but then the conclusions that he came to are so powerful and helpful to all of humanity. It wasn't an ego trip that he came back with, or at least it didn't appear that way to me. And now the truth that he is able to impart or share with the rest of the world based on his experiences, it's just a gift that keeps on giving and giving.